Last 2 days I was in Mumbai, and that's why at least yesterday I wasn't able to do my episode of Clutter. So we ran an earlier one which we thought became relevant on UP's population issue, or the issue as the Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath is framing it now. So my apologies for missing yesterday, but you know what? Since I was in Bombay and really going from place to place, because Bombay in rain, Bombay is tough to navigate at any time, but in the rain, it gets tougher. It just occurred to me, and I was reflecting on these big infrastructure projects coming up in Bombay. Many were conceived in Congress's times, then put into effect under Congress Shiv Sena, then taken forward by Shiv Sena, will now be taken by Congress and another kind of Shiv Sena. And that made me reflect on another phenomenon in Indian politics, which is very current right now and which I thought I should talk about. And it is quite cluttered. As I tell you some data, I will give you data as I speak, but you will also see some charts, because I will not repeat everything, learning from many of you who've been writing, saying that if you have a lot of data, if you have a lot of figures, etc., it's better to put charts and then reading them out from the top of my head. So what are we talking about? We are talking about BJP and allies. Now, Maharashtra is a very good case, because in Maharashtra, BJP and Shiv Sena have mostly been friends, but have also been frenemies, because they fight together. When they fight together, they generally win. Sometimes they don't fight together, they separate, as they did in 2014, but they come together subsequently. Now they have broken up again. In the process, the Shiv Sena got 2.5 years of power against the run-off play, as they say. BJP is now back, basically leaving the captain and the vice captain of Shiv Sena alone and vacuum cleaning most of their leadership, most of their party. And that became evident just yesterday, that is this Tuesday, when Uddhav Thackeray, and that is the trigger for this episode of Cut the Clutter, Uddhav Thackeray, under pressure from his own MLAs and MPs, decided to support NDA's presidential candidate, Droupadi Murmu. That for me was a complete capitulation by the Shiv Sena, which had just been broken up by the BJP. And that pointed us to a very important phenomenon in Indian politics, which is the way the BJP has been shedding allies since 2014. We divide this history into two, pre-2014 and post-2014. Because pre-2014, everybody needed allies at the center, because without allies, you could not form a government. 2014, BJP won a majority. 2019, they repeated it. And you know, one of the phenomena which has gone largely unnoticed, although we keep talking about it all the time, but not in a rounded way, is that BJP has, once it's got a majority in 2014, and it got reassured that they could get it again, as they did, in fact, even better in 2019. They've been shedding their allies as a kind of extra baggage, right? When you have excessive baggage, or when your balloon is going too high, right, then you throw some baggage so you can go even higher, because then sometimes you need the baggage to rise, that weight to rise. Sometimes you rise higher when you throw it. So that is precisely what the BJP has been doing with its allies since 2014. Use and throw, you can call it, or you can say doctrine of necessity if you want to be more sophisticated, but that's precisely what's happening. Now, how many such allies have been lost to the BJP? You will see a list on my screen. I will not read the whole list because that'll take a lot of time. But think about it. Since 2014, 19, that is 19 allies have left the BJP. Or if you want to put it that way, BJP has got rid of 19 allies. BJP has dumped 19 allies. You can choose your description, but the list of the 19 you will see on my screen. There was also a column that my colleague and political editor DK Singh had written about this some time back. I'm also sharing with you a link of that column. Now, 19 is a lot of parties, and these are nothing parties. Each party counted for some assembly seats, some parliament seats. Each party owned some vote, one caste, one subcaste, one tribe, one region, one linguistic group, etc., etc. But now they are all out. And what has happened? In some cases, these ones have completely faded away. In other cases, BJP has vacuum cleaned their talent base. in yet another set of cases, BJP has propped up other leaders who've now been able to take away the same voter base, which is precisely what they've tried doing in Maharashtra, for example. They've taken away Eknath Shinde and many others, hoping that that will take away not just, first of all, the machinery, the symbol, the infrastructure of Shiv Sena, and then subsequently the voter base as well. So this is the model that BJP has followed quite successfully. Now 19, you will see the list, but I will tell you the major ones from the top of my head, and I will tell you where I, in my political analysis, have gone so wrong, have been proven so wrong with something that I have consistently maintained for almost 30 years now. And on that's been overturned. And I will tell you that in a moment. But see some of the more important allies that have left BJP or BJP has dumped. Shiv Sena. You might say, oh, there is a Shiv Sena, but this is not the Shiv Sena. New Shiv Sena is coming up, which is like a spare wagon on BJP's train. So Shiv Sena, AIADMK, in and out, with and against, and interesting things are happening there. And I will talk about that in 2 minutes, for about 2 minutes. AIADMK, Shiromani Akali Dal, PDP in Kashmir. Remember, PDP and the BJP formed a government together. Now the dagger's drawn, PDP is out, and a lot else has happened in Kashmir since then. Then there is TDP. Then there are parties with which BJP has had to align because they really want power now. They needed power now. For example, JJP, that is Dushyant Chautala's party in Haryana. They haven't yet left it, but I bet as Kuldeep Bishnoi, pictures of him meeting JP Nadda and Amit Shah appear more often, or whenever they appear, it spreads some kind of a scare down Dushyant Chautala's spine. Because, after all, elections keep coming up all the time. And this election in Haryana is just over 2 years away. Then you have JDU. JDU again is a party without which the BJP cannot do. And that's a very interesting case study. JDU is Nitish Kumar's party. So there was a time when BJP started in Bihar, the BJP counted for very little. See what's happened subsequently. Now my colleague Shankar Arrimesh, who's among the senior people covering politics at ThePrint, he's done a bunch of charts for his story, and you will see those charts on my screen. So credit Shankar Arrimesh for these because he's done this research. So he was doing a story precisely on what I'm talking about, and I've also drawn a lot of wisdom from his story. Now see, there is a phenomenon. But before I tell you what the phenomenon is, as I define it, see some figures. In 2005, JDU and BJP contested together. That's when Nitish's government came to power for the first time, the first Nitish chief ministership. JDU, Nitish's party, then got 88 seats. BJP got 55. 88 versus 55. 5 years later, see what happens. 5 years later, because he seemed to have run very successful and very popular government, and people are still comparing his government or his 5 years even more with Lalu's. They are voting for him in larger numbers, and in the process BJP benefits as well. So in 2010, JDU goes up, it doesn't go down, it goes up from 88 to 115, and BJP also doesn't go down. BJP goes up from 55 to 91. What this means is that the others, Congress, RJD, etc., now get fully wiped out. So BJP has grown on the back of JDU, but so far JDU has also grown. It has not declined. But what is JDU looking at? Earlier, the difference between them and the BJP was 88, 55. Now it is 115, 91. So the gap has narrowed. Percentage gap has narrowed even more. So BJP is getting closer. Then what happens in 2015? Because they keep on winning elections. In 2015, and that was a complex election, but 2015, Nitish Kumar's party gets 71 because they don't do as well, and BJP gets 58. Right? So once again, Nitish is ahead, but BJP is still closer than it was in 2005. 2020, that is the latest election. See what happens. JDU is 43 and BJP is 74. In this 15-year race, in this 15-year partnership, the equation is completely reversed. It started with BJP as a distant junior partner. It has now reached a stage where JDU is a distant junior partner and they have the chief ministership mostly at the sufferance of the BJP. Now, if you see these charts that come up vis-a-vis Shiv Sena, vis-a-vis other parties, you will see some of the same phenomenon playing out in other states with other parties as well. Once BJP takes a partner, in the course of time, BJP grows into its space and the partner very often becomes irrelevant, either withers away or its people leave and join the BJP, or it breaks up into many factions. That is a straight line that's happened everywhere. Now look at what the BJP did to JDU. In the last assembly election, Chirag Paswan, we know, broke away, Ramvilas Paswan's son, and decided to contest against NDA. But he said, I will not contest against BJP candidates. So he put up 130 candidates against JDU's candidates, against Nitish's candidates. And Nitish, if you look at the data, if you analyze the data, then it's reasonable to say that Nitish's party lost 30 seats because of him. If those 30 seats had come to Nitish's party, they would not be 43, they'll be 73 and BJP is 74. So they'll be about at the same level. So Nitish believes, he'll not say it to you yet, but Nitish believes, his party believes that the BJP deliberately helped or encouraged or egged on Chirag Paswan to put up candidates only against JDU. That is to weaken the JDU so that Nitish Kumar iske baad acha bacha banke rahenge. And you can see that in this term, Nitish is a much more diminished chief minister and BJP now is rampant and quite dominant in Bihar. After that, what did the BJP do? BJP gave a ministry at the center to RCP Singh, who is a former IAS officer, who was given this political position and Rajya Sabha seat by Nitish Kumar. So Nitish Kumar immediately saw this as BJP building a rival to him in his party, a bit like an early Eknath Shinde to Uddhav Thackeray. So he figured it and he got even. He took preemptive steps. He was not as lazy as Uddhav Thackeray. He then said, I am not renewing RCP Singh's Rajya Sabha term. So RCP Singh is now left out in the cold, but I won't be surprised in the course of time. Watch till 2024. He might land up somewhere near BJP, either in the BJP or maybe taking a faction away from JDU. We don't know what will happen, but that story is not over yet. And you know that a crack has come up there. Now, AIADMK, I told you that I'll tell you a little bit more about AIADMK. AIADMK, see what's been happening. In the last assembly election, AIADMK got 65 seats, BJP got only 4 seats. But AIADMK since then has been having internal warfare. And just yesterday, once again I told you, there was a trigger for this episode of Cut the Clutter. One was Shiv Sena saying, or Shiv Sena being forced to say, or maybe, drinking the chalice of poison, the line that famously was spoken by Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran, drinking from the chalice of poison. Uddhav Thackeray said that he was going to vote for Droupadi Murmu. At the same time, a split of sorts took place in AIADMK, BJP's allies. That is EPS, Palaniswamy, he threw out OPS, right? So that one major leader has gone out. Now there's a fight for usual, familiar fight for symbol, fight for party infrastructure. Is yours the real party? Is mine the real party? What it does in the process is it makes BJP stronger in the state. And BJP has been trying to move into the space that effectively is occupied right now by the Congress party. So last urban body elections, BJP did not get many seats, but they got quite a bit of vote in Tamil Nadu. So they think that if they can become a stronger party in Tamil Nadu, the ruling party, the dominant party in Tamil Nadu since the 70s has always aligned with the ruling party in Delhi. Sometimes they leave it and the other guys come in, but both ADMK and DMK have been on either side. Both have been with the BJP as well as the Congress. So then to to qualify even for that partnership with the party that will come to majority in Tamil Nadu, you have to have a bunch of votes in Tamil Nadu, which the Congress has, say about 10%, 12%, whatever. BJP is trying to get into that space. Now, BJP now has become stronger. BJP has also appointed a new party chief there, that is K. Annamalai, the former IPS officer who resigned from service, Karnataka cadre. So they are building up their leadership, and their leader in Tamil Nadu, their vice president in Tamil Nadu, who's VP Doraiswamy, he had made a statement some time back that AIADMK is not playing the role of an effective opposition. If anything, with just 4 members in the assembly, BJP was proving to be a more effective opposition than AIADMK with 65. Now, AIADMK also has a problem. They have a tough rival in the ruling party. There are cases, there are issues, there is infighting there. So AIADMK at that point hit back. They retaliated. Their organizing secretary, Ponayan, he said that BJP has betrayed us, that BJP hasn't kept its promise about Kaveri waters or about Mulla Periyar Dam, etc., etc. And then after that, some kind of pouring of oil over troubled waters took place. But see what the BJP was doing earlier. And we had done a full episode of Cut the Clutter on this. By holding a Murugan Yatra, right? By making a pitch for a temple festival, by continuing to demand freeing of temples from government control, from government-run trusts, for example. They've been making life tougher for AIADMK because, both AIADMK and DMK lay claims to the Dravid philosophy, Dravid ideology, which is religion-free, which is atheist, right? They don't like being drawn into these issues of religion, temples, etc., etc. But BJP as your ally, BJP has the choice when to rake it up, when to cool it down. So right now, they've been raking up some of these issues. Shiv Sena in Maharashtra is a very interesting story. We know they've come, they've gone. And once again, if you see, BJP started out as a very junior partner. So in fact, Uddhav Thackeray at one point said that, look, BJP uses and throws rivals. They came to us when their candidates used to lose their deposits in Maharashtra. So they came to us looking for our votes. And that's precisely what happened. And you can see that. You can see that also in Shankar's chart that I am sharing with you in terms of what's happened between BJP and Shiv Sena in various elections for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Over time, BJP became not only bigger than Shiv Sena, it started out as a very junior partner. That's why the early alliance governments, NDA governments in Maharashtra had the chief minister from Shiv Sena. So that was Manohar Joshi, that was Narayan Rane briefly. Now BJP is got into a different situation. That equation is completely changed. And that's why when Uddhav Thackeray said that BJP promised that this time chief ministership would be half and half, 2.5 years you keep it, 2.5 years we keep it. In fact, now that Shinde has become chief minister, Uddhav Thackeray said that if BJP had accepted this 2.5, MVA would never have come up. But the fact is that if you get 55 or 56 seats and BJP gets 105 or 6, whatever it was, thereabouts, about half of the BJP, then you can't demand a rotation of chief ministerships because this partnership has weakened you. You represent this phenomenon. Look at some other parties. Fascinating detail. JDU, while BJP also knows that without Nitish Kumar, they cannot have sufficient numbers. They cannot even win sufficient numbers in Bihar to rule. In fact, if Nitish wasn't there the last time, even though he might have been undermined by the BJP, it was RJD, Congress combined, came very close to winning in Bihar. So BJP would have lost such a major state. So they can't do without him. And yet, in Arunachal Pradesh, where JDU had 7 MLAs, BJP vacuum cleaned 6 out of 7. So this is all is fair in love and war. And politics, you can even steal from your allies' home, and which is exactly what happened. Hagrama Mohilari, see the picture. Hagrama Mohilari is a former militant leader of the Bodo tribe in Assam. He had his party. With his party, BJP had an alliance. They needed his help to get the tribal vote, particularly the Plains tribals vote. BJP won that election. In the course of time, they got rid of Hagrama and his Bodoland People's Front. For Bodoland Territorial Council election, which is like an autonomous body within the state, for the Bodoland Territorial Council election, BJP dumped him and they went with another party called UPPL, I think United People's Party Liberal or something like that. So they went with them, and Hagrama is now out in the cold. He's got nothing. His voters have shifted. His followers have also shifted. So used, thrown, dumped, and now he's in the trash can, and soon, unless he can invent himself, he'll just be part of this flotsam and jetsam of political losers in Assam. Similarly, Andhra, BJP and TDP. See how many times BJP and TDP have been together, how many times they've gone away. In 2018, BJP and TDP were together, then they broke off. As they broke off, what did the BJP do? It took away TDP's 4 Rajya Sabha MPs with some help from the quote-unquote agencies. They took away 4 of TDP's Rajya Sabha MPs. That means further and greatly weakening TDP. And since then, BJP has been trying to build its own party strength, also using these 4 ex-TDPites in Andhra Pradesh. Again in Andhra Pradesh, see the record of this famous popular film actor Pawan Kalyan. In fact, there was an event in Delhi's Vigyan Bhavan where I was speaking. It was a full hall, and suddenly the hall broke out into wild applause and cheering and shouting and clapping. And I thought, what have I said that people are celebrating so much? And soon enough, I figured that I had said no such thing. As I was speaking, usual boring stuff, behind me in walked Pawan Kalyan, because he was the next speaker. So this crowd was cheering him. Yet he's not been successful electorally as yet. So see what happened with Pawan Kalyan. Pawan Kalyan in 2014 went with TDP and BJP, did not do so well, right? Then 2019, he went with BSP and left, contested from 2 seats, lost from both seats. Now he's with the BJP, and let us see what will happen to him. So he had joined the BJP as an ally, now he's in the BJP. OP Rajbhar in Uttar Pradesh. You know, we've spoken a few times about this Suheldev party, which has the Rajbhar vote, and we said Rajbhars have a certain critical percentage of votes in a large number of constituencies, assembly constituencies, particularly in eastern UP. He lately became an ally. The Samajwadi Party did very badly and is now split from Samajwadi Party, from Akhilesh Yadav also. 2017, when BJP was building a rainbow coalition in UP, he was made a member of the coalition, but looked like he was demanding too much, or BJP thought he was demanding too much, so they got rid of him. And since then, they built their own Rajbhar leaders, and they are trying to build another leadership and another group which can get the Rajbhar vote. So in the process, OP Rajbhar now is not even a pale shadow of himself. So this bit of detail I thought was necessary to understand one of the most important, significant phenomena in our politics, which we are exposed to in driblets. When some story happens, some party splits, some Maharashtra happens, some Punjab happens. And you know what? I told you in the very beginning that what's happened with this politics has proven me wrong on something that I have asserted, claimed as an analyst for 30 years. And I thought I could never go wrong in this. So what is it that I've said? I've always said that BJP has 2 natural allies. That is the Akali Dal and the Shiv Sena. Why? Because Akali Dal is India's most religion-based party. Its constitution is religion-based. Nobody can be the president of Akali Dal unless you are a baptized Sikh, right? Similarly, Shiv Sena is the most overtly Hindu party. So the presumption has been these parties can't go with Congress or any so-called secular formulation. So these are BJP's natural allies. And BJP would see them as natural allies, or BJP would see itself as their natural allies. In the last couple of years, both parties, both the Akali Dal and Shiv Sena, have broken away. So I've been proven wrong on this basic formulation. With Shiv Sena, I've been proven wrong 1.5 times over. Because not only did they break away from their natural ally, they also joined is secular formulations. This is Indian politics. It's also the Waterloo of the analyst. So anybody who claims to be a pandit, sab janta wala, as a lot of us in Gluttons do, that humko sab politics ka pata hai, they will all be proven wrong, as I have been in this case.